Hi, how are we today? Like 3 of you are good. Let's try that again. How are we feeling tonight? Okay, 6. I'll work with that. I'm assuming we're well because 18 of you said you're good. That was a great talk about migrations before. Can we hear it for the previous speaker? Actually, that was I want that tool. It's really, it'll make pull requests a lot. We'd be aware of the size of the things we're adding. As Robin so lovingly said, my name is Tejas. That's pronounced like contagious. I am not contagious. I don't have any corona things or anything. But I know it's, but I do work at G2I. G2I is a company that we have like an army of React engineers, and companies come to us and say, hey, I need 5 engineers. And we're like, we know just the people. And so we're like kind of matchmaking developers to companies. And I lead the team that vets new applying engineers. But we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about me. We are here to talk about deconstructing React. And before we get into the talk, this talk, by the way, is very technical. And we're not even going to be looking at slides. We're going to be looking at code for the most part. But before we get into that, I need to clarify why. Why are we even doing that? React works. React is good. I use React. You probably use React. Everybody uses React. Manuel wrote a book about React. So why? And this very small text is the reason. So people have been asking me, how do I learn things? In case you don't know, I am not educated. I have no degree in computer science. I barely went to school. Like in a school year, I'd attend like maybe 19 days. I'm just completely uneducated. But I did take things apart. When I was like 6, 7 years old, we had a family computer. I would break that and my parents would get mad at me. But this is how I learned, right? And so this is kind of what I do with React as well. When I didn't understand RxJS, I just took it apart and, okay, what is this observable thing? What is an observer? How does it work? And similarly with React. And so I think there's a lot of value for us if we look under the hood of React a little bit and try to see how it works, that we can then take back to our everyday jobs and use. For example, if I was to ask you right now, why are there hooks? Why are there rules of hooks? Why can I not put a hook in an if? How many of you, show me, how many of you can tell me the answer confidently? Yeah, there's like 4 people, not even, you're like half? Okay, 3 people, 3.5 people. And my hope is after this talk, you'll kind of understand these things, go back to work and be like, I can write more fluent React applications. Okay, that's the hope. So let's get to work. That was literally all the slides, except there is one more. I need to give you a disclaimer. I'm not part of the React core team. I do not work at Facebook. I do not make React. I opened a pull request once and it was ignored. So this is just my playing and experimenting and does not fully represent React. If you want that, I'd recommend, Dan Abramov is around. Not here, but on the Twitters. Look there, but for our sake, let's get to work. And with that, I'm going to exit out of Keynote. Oh, I have to accept something. Okay. Cool. Good. All right, so let's get to work. I'm here in the lab. Is this size good? There's a lot of white, but we'll see. So I will make a folder and I'll call it our React. And I'm CDing in there. TypeScript is my language of choice. You can choose whatever you want, but I really like TypeScript and I need something to build it, so I'll do Parcel too. And this is why I needed Wi-Fi. I hope the Wi-Fi is good. If not, I'll like do a dance or something. You don't want to see that, believe me. All right. Good. It's fine. It feels to me, because I'm on stage, it feels to me like time is moving way faster than it actually is. The previous speaker could probably agree. Okay, good, it's done. So we will open, I just made this folder, so there's nothing here. We are starting from 0, okay? I'm gonna yarn tsc init, so I'm gonna just start up TypeScript. And so now I have this tsconfig file up here. And I'm just gonna tell it, let's make this nice and big. I'm gonna tell it, we have some JSX, and it's React we're using. And I'm going to, for this purpose, turn off all the strictness. I don't care. Don't do this in your apps at work. Yeah, exactly. But we'll just turn that off for now. And I will create two files. I need an index.html, of course, that my web server will serve. And this will take an index.tsx. So no magic. And here I will do index.tsx. So what we're going to look at in this talk, three things, three React fundamentals of what makes React work. Number one, the virtual DOM. Okay, we've heard this buzzword a lot, virtual DOM, virtual DOM. What is it? We're going to look at that. Number two, we're going to look at hooks. It's the new hotness. How do hooks work? Why do the rules apply? And number three, concurrent mode, which isn't even released, but we're going to kind of look at some, specifically one controversial decision that Facebook made, and we'll kind of dissect it and talk about it. So let's start with the virtual DOM. Actually, we need to start one level even before. Let's start with JSX. So I'm going to go ahead and serve this app. I will do yarn parcel, go away, yarn parcel index.html. And this is going to start up a little dev server. Okay, wow, 1 second. Welcome to 2020. And I'll open this up, and we have a blank page. Woo! All right, I'm going to take this blank page, put it here, and we're going to be spending a lot of time side by side. So I'm loading index.tsx. Let's also open the console, get some console action, and make that nice and big for you. Okay, so const a equals div hello. You recognize this, right? This is React. This is JSX. But I have an error. React is not defined. Well, I didn't import React from React, of course. But we're not going to do that. We're going to make React. So I'll just do, okay, const React. You know what? Let React. That's right. And I'm proud of it. Okay, so now React is defined. It's an object. Okay, but now React.createElement is not a function. So what we're learning here is this thing calls React.createElement. Okay, so, okay, cool. So now I just go ahead and create element. It's expecting it to be a function, so I'll just do that. Okay, no errors, but also nothing. So what does this function, what is this thing? Where is this from? What does this function expect? Let's see the arguments that this function expects. So I'm going to look at args here, and I will console.log. What are you? What are you? Oh, look at that. There's 3 arguments to this function. Div. Okay, so I guess it passes that. Null and hello. And I'm seeing here hello is children. So what could the second one be? Wow, you guys are so, and girls are so smart. Welcome to kindergarten. React. So we'll give it a class name. Bam. Okay, so we have the second one is props and so forth. I've created an element. So what I need to do is I'm just console logging it though. So I'm not really creating anything. So if I go ahead and let's add some stuff. H1, hello, person, perons. And I will just add some lorem ipsum, nothing special. Great, okay. Just have some text. And so I'm calling create element a bunch of times, and that's what we see here. And this one here, we see create element called on the root div. That's the only div. And there's there's like some undefined stuff. What's going on? Turns out children's an array. So we need to actually return something. We're just console logging args now. Let's return something and console log that. So create element, what does it do? I'm assuming it creates and returns an element. So const element is, welcome to the future. So element is, it's just gonna be an object. Tag is, I'm just gonna change this to actually tag props children. Children is an array, so I'm just gonna do that. And so tag props, but I want all the props, and I also want props.children to contain the children, okay? Great, and then of course I need to return it, but I wanna also console log it. Return element, bam. Great, it looks a little bit better. We're actually seeing here our first React elements that have been created. I'm not interested in the children, I'm interested in the root one, the div. So what do we got? Div, props, class name 2020, children, I have 2 children, H1, and the H1 has children, and so on. So what we're looking at here is a what? What's the structure called? It's a tree. It's a tree. What else is a tree? The DOM is a tree. What we have here is the virtual DOM. The virtual DOM is just an object. It's the object with children. There's no magic. That's what it is. And so that's 1/3 of our talk already done. It's just, here you go. Let's. Thank you. So we have, it's all good, but it's in console log, man. Like it's not on the screen. So next step, let's put it on the screen. But there's a flaw here, because if I make this a little bit smaller, what you see is this isn't actually a React component. What is this? It's a React element. It's not a string, but nice try. It's a React element. What do I need to do to make it a component? Needs to be a function, exactly. So this, now it is a React component, and let's follow the convention. It's called app. Does it still work though? It doesn't. I have no console log because this is a function. We need to account for this case. So if type of tag equal, you know what? We're breaking all the rules today. Function. I will call it with props, okay? And I need to actually return that, sorry. I need to what? That's right, I'll get there. Good, so basically this is what they were saying. Very good. And so it works as expected, no problem, everything's fine, but I need to put it on the screen. And this is where part B of React comes in, which is the renderer. So what we've just done is implement poor man's React. That's all it is. But React is just a part of the puzzle. You need to have something that takes your virtual DOM tree, puts it somewhere, right? React Native does this for iOS, Android, whatever. React DOM does it for the browser. React Native DOM does it. There's a lot of different, there's React Inc. that does this on the CLI. It just takes the React tree, puts it on there. So we need to create our render function. So let's just write the API first, render that into document.querySelector app. Alrighty. Render is not defined, of course. Import render, no, we're writing this. So I need to also have an app element here. So I'll just do this. And here's a pro tip for you. Any element in the DOM with an ID, the ID is also a global JavaScript variable. So you could do that if you really want to. Yeah, but let's just be purists about it. I don't want to get kicked out of this meetup and never come back ever again. That would never happen. Nervous laughter. Okay, so we need to define render. So const render. Yeah, okay, we'll do const. And I will take a React element and a container, okay? And I will render it. So what does rendering mean? In this case, I'm rendering to the DOM. So I need to map the virtual DOM element to the actual DOM. So I need to document.create element. So that's what I'll do. Const actual DOM element equals document.create element React element dot tag, because that's what we did up here. When we create the element, it has a tag property. Okay, so we're done. We next need to take the props, apply them on the actual DOM element, and we need to take the children and nest them. All right, so if React element dot props, if it even has props because it's optional, then we'll take the keys of them. Dot keys, React element dot props. We will filter them out for children. We'll deal with children separately. So P is not, too many, not children. And then for each of them, we'll just apply them to our new actual DOM element. So we'll say actual DOM element P equals React element P. That's pretty much it. And I need to do the same thing for children. So if React element dot props dot children, what do I want to do for children? Render recursively. So I will call for each of the children. So React element dot props dot children dot for each child. I will render, but this time the React element being rendered is the child into what container? This one, correct. So there we go, perfect. And then lastly, what's the final step? Append the root to the container. So we will container dot append child actual DOM element. Now this might fail because there's one case we have not yet accounted for, but let's see if this works. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't because cannot read property children of undefined. We're not only dealing with objects here. If you look at this tree, these are not React elements. They're just strings. Do they have children properties? They don't. They're string primitives. And so this thing can be either a React element or a string or a number. This is why we need TypeScript. So if this, actually, if string or number includes type of this thing, I need to treat these differently. So none of this magic here, okay? I want to document.create text node, coerce it to a string, and put it in there. And I want to, actually, let's move this a little bit. That's fine. And so what I'll do here is container.append child. And I'll just return. I won't do anything else. So I don't know what, there we go. It's working. We have a render. We have a render. And this tree can be as deep as I want. I could even be like, here, let's just put an input field in there for fun. Input type is text. Placeholder equals name. Okay, cool. Save. Bam, I have an input. Placeholder. I don't know what's happening. I have a what? Oh. Okay. What's the error? I mean. Wait. Line 32, what's my error? Thanks. Who said that? Show me your hand. You're the king. Round of applause for this guy. Good. So, it's working. It's great. Everything's super. But our app's kind of useless. Because why? It has no state. It's just like, okay, great. You put stuff on the. I could write this in HTML faster than you, Tejas. Come on. You're violating the code of conduct by thinking that. Kick them out. Anyway, no. State, we need state. Let's add state. That was the virtual DOM. That was the renderer. Let's talk hooks. Hooks are my jam. We need state. So let's go here. We're changing absolutely nothing except we're just being a little bit more verbose. So everything's going to be fine. I don't want these warnings. How do I like? Yes. Filter. No, it's not filter. That one. No warnings. There we go. I should also turn off errors and then my app would have no bug. Okay. So const, let's do name because I don't like this person. It's very impersonal, right? So const name, set name, use state, no name by default, I guess. Person, why not? And we'll go ahead and interpolate here name with a JSX expression. And what I want to do is value is name and on change e. Let's just set name e.target.value. Now, something really interesting you need to notice, this is never going to work. Why? Because we're not, the actual web platform specification for inputs is this. Okay, it's not this. This is React. This is web. So we're going to use the platform. Good. Let's see what happens. Oh, no, use state is not defined. Of course. Yes, import. No, we will write it. Const use state. So let's think about how it works. I have my initial state in the argument, and then I return what? I return a tuple with the state and a setter. Simple. So initial state, so I'll just capture the initial state. So actually, we're going to mutate that. So state, initial state, and then set state, new state, state equals initial state. Kind of. Ah, you can tell I'm on the top of my game today. And then we'll return state and set state. Okay, looks okay. Not bad. Does it work? Kind of. Good, good. Does it update? Oh, no. I'm such a bad coder. Okay, I quit. No, just kidding. Okay, so how do we make this work? Well, for one thing, we need to re-render, right? Because when you update state, re-render. So let's take our render function and let's add a re-render function to it. So what we'll do is we'll just copy this render. And this is poor man's React. Okay, this is not how they actually do it, but let's just do that again. What? Oh, arrow, right. Okay, good. But let's actually just try that. And then we'll call re-render when we call set state. So this is not just a reassignment, but we will also re-render. Is this going to work? But why not? What's wrong? State order. So now. But check this out. Oh, we have a pen child. Okay. So with re-render, we'll clear the first child. We'll clear the root and re-add the root. Whatever. And this actually works. But what's going on here? Okay, so no, that's not true. What's happening is, let's use console log to debug. Console log, okay? Use state called with initial state. And in set state, console log, set state called with new state. All right, let's see what's happening. Use state called with person, good, it mounted. Change person to Robin. It is changing it. So we're setting the state, but immediately remounting with the initial state. You don't see it. So we're starting to understand now how hooks work. How do we fix this? We use something that is very popular in JavaScript. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that is what? Closure. Exactly. So if you've ever done a JavaScript interview and somebody has asked you about closure and prototype inheritance, this is a prime example. React Hooks works with closure. And closure, for those of you if you aren't informed, is it's when a function's scope encloses over an inside function's scope. So we're going to assume that all of this actually is happening inside a module or a function or a closure. Every JavaScript module is a closure. Okay, so this file is no exception. So we will, who said global state? You're right, but closure state. So it's not on window, it's inside this module. We will have state be this. And what we need here is some type of cursor, because we have multiple moving parts of state. You know, how many times have you seen an app with just one state, name, right? In fact, let's add this example. So we go to our JSX tree, and we'll add 2 pieces of state, okay? The count is, and this is just a classic example, and we'll add some buttons, not blur, buttons on click, and we'll set count to count +1, plus button, and count -1. And of course, we need to call count, set count, use state 0. All right. So this is not going to do anything because it's the same problem. But now we have 2 moving parts of state. Cool. So we'll have our state in a store, in a universal kind of outside scope. We'll say const states, or yeah, we can say states equals this. And we need something to point to which state am I talking to right now. And so we'll just call it let state cursor equals 0. So every time we call use state, it's going to set a state in this array at index 0, at index 1, at index 2, and so on. And these are the moving parts of our app. So if you think with me, when we call this, it's going to set index 0 to person. When we call this, it's going to set index 1 to our count, which is 0, and so forth. But we need to work with this. So we don't need the console logs anymore. We will freeze the state cursor here. So we'll say const frozen cursor. equals state cursor. And what we want to do is just only work with that in here. This is where closure comes in. So we'll say state. We don't even need that actually. So we'll reassign states at the frozen cursor. Okay, and we'll return this one from the outer scope. Good. We just need to do one more thing, and that is increment the cursor to the next one. So when useState finishes, it says, okay, I'm done, next piece of state. So what we'll do is plus plus, exactly. That's why it's with let too. So state cursor plus plus. Does this work? Cannot read, what? What did I do wrong? I missed TypeScript. Did I? Okay. Oh, so it doesn't like this? I think it was cached. Parcel has a really nasty cache. Console logs, let's say called with everything. Oh, but I removed these. Just a second. All right, so we have this frozen cursor is the state cursor. Super. And we will just return states at. We need to also set the initial one. Frozen cursor equals initial state. Perfect. And then we will, and then we will reassign it here in set state. And we will return that. Good. Yeah, thanks. That's a really important one. State cursor plus plus. Break everything. Come on. Okay, good. It doesn't. I think it was just the cache. Let's go away. Okay, super. So now everything's fine. Does it work? It still doesn't work. And that's because on render, we need to reset the cursor. So when we render, all the cursors go to 0. We call set state, index 0, index 1, index 2, everything's set, and we reset it. So let's go back to that re-render here. Here, and we will state cursor is back to 0. This, in theory, should work, but okay, well, it doesn't. So, and this is where, I don't know why. I tried. Let's console log states. Yeah, it totally works. But you see what's happening, we're resetting it. I call what again? That's right. So we need to read it's not always the initial state. Good call. So instead of initial state, it's either this one, if it exists, or the initial state. Perfect. And now everything is fine. Perfect. There we go. And so from this, you can see, so if on every time we mutate state, let's just console log the global state to see what's going on. And so you can kind of see them updating here in real time. And this is kind of the index that React has. This is a little bit behind because the way input works, but this is kind of how it works. And so if you have useState called 100 times, you just have an array with a lot of indices. But because of this, now can you kind of see why the rules of hooks applies? What's one of the rules of hooks? No hooks and conditionals. You have to love them unconditionally. Thanks, Ryan Florence. So if, let's actually just declare these variables here for the sake of demonstration. Nothing, don't do this in production at all, but we let these be things. 0 and a function that does absolutely nothing. And instead of const, we'll just reassign them here. And we'll say if, I don't know, like 50-50, math.random greater than 0.5, then we'll set this. If not, we won't, right? And watch our app be really weird. Okay, nothing's happening, but let me change this. And so sometimes it works, and this is because on every render, this count either works or doesn't. So it's just a really confusing, our luck is really not, yeah. So if your app doesn't expect the way you should, this is, it shouldn't set count to, yeah. Yeah, it's just a, look at this. It's just really strange. Where does 3880 even come from? It's octal, okay, wow. Welcome to, so, but now it's 0, but at some point it's this. And so it's completely unpredictable. And this is why look at this. Well, this is why we have the rules of hooks. Thankfully, React will throw if you do that. So you're good, but that's should help you understand it. All right, we're done with 2/3. How are we doing on time? Do we have time to go concurrent or? Okay, cool. He's just like, oh, whatever. Awesome. All right, we're going to talk concurrent mode, and then we will, eat pizza or do whatever we do. What? Oh, lightning talks. Stay for those. They're amazing. Cool. Concurrent mode. So for those of you who haven't heard of concurrent mode, it is async rendering. It's the way React is able to literally suspend. It stops rendering, waits for some side data to come in from somewhere, and then continues. The React team came under a lot of fire for the way they implemented it because people would say they abuse the JavaScript specification by throwing not errors, but promises. And personally, I don't think that's abusing the language. I think it's creatively using the language. Nowhere does it say you can't throw whatever you want. I could throw the dice in JavaScript if you manage to do that. I could do whatever I want. So let's look at how that works. So let's go to my function. Where's this app? App is my component, all right? And I want to do something asynchronous here. Const, I'm going to use the classic example. You can, whatever, dog photo URL. And I'll fetch from my favorite API, breeds random image. It's scary that I know that by heart. Serialize the response to JSON. And then I even know the payload. So the payload.message. Okay, great. What do you want, man? Cannot find name payload. Dude, you're defined. Oh, it's a function. Got it. Did you see how I called it dude? All right, cool. Everything's good. It's 404ing, which means, did I get it wrong? Yes. That's fine. I think it's image random. Yeah, that's the one. Wait. Yeah, I always swap them. Man. All right, this works. Image random. Perfect. Good. Okay, so I'm fetching something, but nothing's happening. And if I go down here and I try to, let's put it here. Let's do this and see what I see. Oh, look, there's nothing. Oh, I have a huge error. Cannot read properly children if undefined. Oh my goodness, what's happening? Why? Can someone tell me why? It's a promise. It hasn't resolved. It says, hey, I'm going to go fetch data and come back whenever, but not now. And we don't, if you look here, we're not actually doing anything with promises. So good luck. So we need some way to wrap this promise and know when it's ready. And this is the first part of Suspense for data fetching in concurrent mode. React exposes a primitive called create resource. And it's a function that just wraps your promise. That's kind of all it does. And the second argument is some type of key, a unique key, a name. So we'll call this dog photo. Okay. Now the error is create resources. We're getting a lot of not defines, but we define them, so it's all good. Const create resource. What do I want to do with this? It gets two things. It gets a promise and a key. Okay. So what I want to do with this is I want to check, has this promise been resolved? Is the data ready to be shown, or is it not yet ready? And then make a decision. So to know if the data is ready or not, I need some type of centralized cache. Again, closure, not global. So const promise cache, new, and it's just a map, nothing special, okay? And what we'll do is we'll check if promise cache, if it has our key, and we'll just return it. Promise cache.get key, bam. If it doesn't though, what do? We need some way from as deep as we are in the tree, we need some way to respond to this. So we can't just do like one level up. As you know, with React apps, the component trees are deep, super deep. If you've inspected, you would have just seen div, right? And so we need something to respond to that from the top. Now, this is how try catch works. You could throw an error anywhere and catch anywhere, and it just knows. This emulates a functional programming paradigm called algebraic effects, a way to respond to things deep inside globally. And so we're going to use try catch for that. To catch something, though, we need to what? We need to do that. And we will throw the promise and its cache key. And so now let's save this. We have an uncaught dog photo. The next logical step is to catch it. Where do we catch it, though? This is a question. You see, we're throwing in the app function. Where does the app function get called? No, wrong answer, but good try. It gets called in create element all the way at the beginning of the talk. If you weren't paying attention, boo-hoo now. But this is where it gets called. So we need to try catch this thing. So let's try to return that, sure. But we'll catch the promise cache key. And what do we want to do with this? We need to show something. The user needs to see something. So right off the bat, without even thinking, I'm going to return. Let's just do a return a div and props children. I am loading. And you know what? I'll return an H1 because I want to shout it. Does it work? It doesn't work. Why? Props. No, children is what? Props.children not for each. Oh, it needs to be an array. TypeScript. I miss you. Okay. There we go. I'm loading. We need to wait for loading to finish and then re-render. So promise.then, whenever it finishes, data, we get data, some data, we don't know what it is. And what we're going to do is set it in the promise cache. Dot set key to data, and I will re-render. And so now, promise.then is not a function. Am I even throwing a promise? What am I throwing? So yeah, you're right. I'm not calling it. Correct. I need to call it. Let's go here, and promise is thing that returns. It's late, man. There. You're right. Whoever said that, I love you. Thank you. Okay, good. Now we have perfect. We have the URL, but we're not showing it. And so just to close us out, let's image this thing. Alt equals good boy. And just like that, we've implemented concurrent mode. It waits. Thank you. And so with that, we just implemented poor man's React, and we implemented 3 pillars on which poor man's React works. Let's just quickly talk some takeaways. You see, because this is literally poor man's React. Okay, it doesn't even come close. I mean, there's the whole topic of the reconciler, bread first algorithm that searches and detects changes and re-renders accordingly. We didn't even touch that. But that's not the purpose. The purpose was to learn. And I mean, this is a risky move, but how many of you learned something new about React? Oh, that's the entire room. Okay, I've done my job. Good. And so let's just quickly talk some takeaways. Number 1, building is learning. I have so many conversations with people say, hey, should I build this thing? I mean, what if nobody uses it? Nobody's going to use my poor man's React. Okay? I just built it in front of you. Nobody's going to use it. But I don't care. I learned a ton. You learned a ton just from building this together. Building is learning. If nobody uses it, that's fine. It doesn't matter. I hope you get your validation from a better place. Number 2, time is never wasted. I spent a lot of time kind of figuring this stuff out. And a lot of people say, okay, but what do you have to show for it? Well, I understand React better, but does that really get me richer? Probably not. Does it help my family? It doesn't. But I would still say this time wasn't wasted because I've learned some stuff. And so the focus here is learning. And lastly, this all started when I was just like, man, do I qualify to be an engineer at Facebook? Do I think like an Abramov? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, you know, and it started with wonder. How does React actually, I've tried to read the React source code. I don't get it. There's like secret Facebook internals don't use or you'll be fired or whatever. Like, I don't know. but I was wondering, and from wonder came this. So I'd encourage you also, first speaker was wondering about migration. How is this working? And the wonder led to amazing products. And so I'd encourage you with that, wake up, wonder. Doesn't matter if nobody uses it. You're not going to waste your time. It's going to be meaningful. And with that, thank you very, very much.